in 3, 2, 1. Let's go live. Let's get ready to rumble. I'm just kidding. Hey, guys. Good evening. This is Weather Center Live on April 11th, 2024, at 8 p.m. on this wonderful Thursday evening, a rather busy Thursday evening. It has been a very, very, very eventful day here, not only in the Weather Center, but for the Southeast and now the Ohio Mid-Atlantic regions of the United States. Mick and Marley, hello there. I just recently saw your notification pop up on Instagram. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Was just getting ready for the live stream. Howdy, kids. Just saying hello, then dipping out of the chat. Too much distraction from Naz's hard work and just not in it. Sad but true. Understandable. 110%. No hard feelings, no worries at all. We're going to get right into things. And we're starting off as folks begin to join us with a wide look at the eastern half of the United States at what is currently unfolding. And truthfully, hate to say it, but once again, it looks like Storm Prediction Center has more or less missed the mark, and I'll show you exactly why here in a second. But we're going to start off with looking at our composite reflectivity here from the northeast all the way down to the Florida Peninsula on the bottom portion of your screen. Today has been wild, to say the least, and I try to avoid using sensationalist jargon on this channel on every platform that I operate, but to tell you the truth, we've had catastrophic flash flooding, emergency flooding occurring from through eastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle is currently underwater. For all intents and purposes. One of my lovely viewers from up there in the Tallahassee region has sent me a number of different videos confirming that we have floodwaters upwards of 1 to, if not 3 to 4 feet in some areas, roads and vehicles entirely submerged. So it has definitely been an eventful day. We've had not only flash flooding persisting for much of us down here in the southeast, the Gulf Coast, the southeast, but now we also have flash flood conditions moving through West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. More than likely going to see this extend into New York State as this system slowly transitions towards the east-northeast. And unfortunately, no one's talking about this. No one wants to, everyone refuses to discuss this huge outbreak of flooding that we have going on with this system. Everyone's still talking tornadoes, and folks, as much as I love severe weather, as much as I think it's exciting, as much as the next extreme weatherman, we are not really in a bona fide tornado outbreak, and I'll show you the numbers here in a moment, although we had a wild wedge tornado here today in St. Augustine, Florida, which was very, very wild to see. The size of this thing, it was beyond a traditional stovepipe funnel. It was definitely approaching that half-mile wide wedge-style tornado, something you'd see on a dry line setup in Texas, Oklahoma, or Kansas. This was a monstrosity of a tornado, and I don't know exactly how much it was in, rated in intensity. Don't know on the EF scale, etc., but it's definitely, it's packed a punch, and I think, Florida definitely had a designation. I personally would have gone with a bit higher of a designation just because of the fact that we had such widespread coverage through the Panhandle, through the Big Bend, through the northern and central halves of the state, and we also had tornadic activity in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area as well. So this has been an extraordinary event. It has broken a lot of rules, and as some would say, it has overperformed in a variety of assets, underperformed in other avenues, like the tornado outbreak. Chase the weather, just like everyone didn't mention the flooding in New Orleans yesterday. Yeah, I don't understand why. No one's talking about it. No one is bringing it up, and that, honestly, hate to tether it up. Wilhelm Red, you brought it up. I hate to somehow tailor it to that particular time of the year, but this has me low-key concerned for the tropical season, because if we're getting bombarded and flooded, almost washed out by these springtime systems, what's going to happen when we have a relentless tropical cyclone, let alone a major hurricane, knocking on the doorsteps of a geographic region that was just inundated by the rainfall associated with this unstable, now mature wave pushing into the Ohio Valley? So this is where we currently stand. This is our composite reflectivity, as I'd mentioned previously before we start to get into the briefing. It does not look like we're going to have very many people joining us tonight. We have a lot of other streamers currently active on the YouTubes, talking about this extreme tornado outbreak with the one tornado warning across the United States right now. Bonafide tornado outbreak, and I hope you're detecting the sarcasm as well. We did have a line of very organized thunderstorm activity pushing through North Carolina right now, though. This has only popped up, I believe, within the last 30 minutes to an hour. I'd glanced at the radar maybe around 6-ish, a little after 6, and then again a little after 7, and a lot of the severe weather out there had dissipated, and then this all of a sudden came to fruition right about where I figured we would see it. We're in close proximity to that triple point as our mature system continues to occlude and continues to deepen. And if you notice, this is honestly a perfect representation of the type of synoptic scale setup that gives us not only flash flood conditions, but also high winds and significant thunderstorm activity. And we'll break it down here just like we always do on this channel. So here's our parent low. We have our occluded front, this purple appendage here. There's your triple point where we still have really good jet support running over top of it. Here's our severe sector. This would be all of our moderate, if not greater, rainfall in the stratiform sector of it, because we're not to the south of our warm front, but if you notice, we have a secondary warm frontal appendage up towards the very top portion of the screen. You guys can't see it on my OBS. I'm taking a look at it, but it's there. It's over the Great Lakes as we speak. And we're right in this quadrant of very heavy rainfall, and that's going to continue to persist, and we're likely going to see flooding conditions unfold in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, which is why I started this live briefing with, well, SPC, we kind of missed the mark again. And I mentioned this on my TikTok update for those of you who follow me on that platform. I'd mentioned we still have our enhanced risk up here. If I were Storm Prediction Center, I would drop it off to the south and just let it ride, because we are not going to see very much significant weather, if anything, up there at this point in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, etc., outside of maybe a heavy rainfall event. At this point, that chapter has come and gone. That book is closed. We're not going to be seeing that enhanced threat unfold. And I'm surprised that they modified the outlook in Florida. They dropped the level 2 risk and brought us down to a level 1 as that little, I guess you can say, dissipating squall feature finished working its way through the south and eastern portions of the peninsula. But that's it. We're done. The severe weather is going to likely persist into the Carolinas and Virginia. That's for certain because of where this system is tracking. And when I switch us over to the Theta E, my favorite tool, I swear by it, you'll see precisely why we're not going to see anything up there in the Midwest. Everyone's still focusing on it. Everyone's still panicking. I'm seeing the classic severe weather anxiety. Indiana, Ohio, I'm scared because tornadoes, and it's like, this is why, even though the YouTube algorithm hates this channel, the YouTube algorithm hates the other channels who are very realistic, this is why I go on my long-winded speeches during these live streams, because if we weren't focused on the scare tactics and just getting excited, and maybe it's not even the scare tactics, it's perhaps just people cannot contain themselves when it comes to the excitement of severe weather, myself included. I'm not going to try to front with you guys. On the streams, I will try to keep it as professional and straight-edged as possible. When I'm off the streams, I'm going to shoot straight with you guys. I'm all sorts of excited. I hope the severe weather hits. I hope I have a chance to go storm chasing. I hope this hurricane forms up. That's the extreme weatherman or the extreme meteorologist to me. But for you guys, as I'm communicating the threats, I'm not going to sit here and get all excited. I'm not going to sit here and, oh, wow, this is terrible. Look, that's just, no, that's uncalled for. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's been a giant goose egg across Illinois, through Ohio and Pennsylvania. We have nothing going on up there, and it's a shame that we're talking tornadoes, and all these folks are not prepared for flash flood conditions, and that's a fairly expansive area of flash flooding. We're starting off in western Virginia through West Virginia, parts of Kentucky, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh is possibly under the gun for significant flooding, and in fact, if I zoom in a little bit, I just noticed this myself. I was wondering what that was. We have another emergency flood set up right here. Flash flood emergency. This has been the ongoing story with this system, and nobody's talking about it. No one is talking about it. No one wants to advertise it. I've not seen one video. I remember on, I think it was yesterday's stream, I had gassed up a few other channels, and, I gave them kudos, and I'm not taking them away, but at the same time, I'm still not seeing anyone mentioning to folks that, hey, you want to watch for tornadoes, but the greatest risk for your area is getting washed out, and flash flood emergency. Local law enforcement reported thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Between 2 to 4 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall amounts of 1 to 2 inches are possible in the warned area. Flash flooding is ongoing. hazard, life-threatening flash flooding. Law enforcement reported, and even though everyone loves to say potentially dangerous situation for the tornadoes, check this out. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now. Life-threatening flash flooding of low water crossings, small creeks and streams, urban areas, highway streets, and underpasses. And these are very, very heavily populated areas. We're looking at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh is a big city. It's home of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is why I gripe behind the scenes and mention to people, we got to stop being so trendy. I understand we're trying to grind, and I understand we're trying to get that clout. We're trying to get known. I'd be lying to you guys if I told you that I didn't want my name to blow up and become a popular figure in weather. The number one reason that is because I'm going to shoot straight with you guys. I'm not going to BS and beat around the bush for the sake of trying to get you to like me. No, that's not the case at all. But, we got to get back to the hard facts. And, again, forecast is verifying immaculately, and I'm not trying to sound like a DB, for lack of a better term, but enhanced, diddly squat, they need to move it down to the south, just as I had mentioned on TikTok. This setup is changing, and it's been evolving as we've gone through the day, and we'll go ahead and transition over to that right now. We'll say hello to a few more folks who have joined us. Twilight Firefly 100, thank you very much for joining us. It's good to see you. Same thing with One Nation Weather and Judy Tokos. Chris Mazel, thank you very much for joining. Life and Living. And let's see who else. I noticed Chase the Weather, the SPC hasn't been living up to hype this year. Unfortunately not. I don't understand why that is. I don't understand why it is that they're kind of mailing in their charts. I almost feel like it's bizarre. It almost seems like they're just kind of not even going to put it that way, because I know they're professionals, they're the subject matter experts, but sometimes I genuinely do question what it is that they're looking at. I wish I could sit in or just be a fly on the wall for when they disseminate their charts. So here we are. This is our analyzed surface theta E. And if you've been following this channel for a while now, I literally swear by the theta E. In fact, if I ever get to the point where I can make merchandise, I want to make 2 shirts specifically. One of them is going to be a little nudge, because I've really taken to using that quote on the channel quite a bit. I want to make something in long, or even just a decal, give it a little nudge. And that's perfect. And then 2, what's the theta E say? Or take a look at the theta E. Because the theta E tells you 100% what's going on out there. And if you guys look, this is 15Z earlier today. This is just around the lunch hour for us in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. And as we roll through the day, notice that if you remember yesterday's briefing, I'd mentioned that we had a small sliver of potential activity that could try to break off as that triple point and that occluded front expands into Ohio, the Ohio Valley, the greater lower Great Lakes, and the northeastern states. But we have a very small opportunity in doing so, and that small opportunity has closed. And if you watch as we get closer and closer through the day, notice where that sector is. It tries to get up there, but there it is. It's getting pulled eastward. It's moving due east now. And if you guys are not really noticing what I'm talking about, there's our parent low. Here's our occluded front, and notice how that area of severe weather is pushing east. And it lines up, well, not severe weather, excuse me. The greatest theta E values indicative of our unstable layer is moving through the mid-Atlantic, which is why, if we go back to the radar, you can see exactly, like, if you just looked at this, you could very easily say, yep, severe weather. And if you guys wanted to fact check it, there you go. Right there. Bada bing, bada boom. We'll see you next time. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But, that's why I swear by this product so much. And it's such a wonderful tool when you really understand what it is you're looking at. And I know it looks like a lot of psychedelic colors and winds, but when you draw charts and you analyze for air mass features, synoptic scale, macro scale features long enough, it's almost like seeing the Matrix. You can kind of just picture what's happening and you understand it, and you can more or less extrapolate it, as it's called, as it occurs and unfolds. And the trajectory of our occluded low is precisely why that area of instability, that warmer advection that tried to punch up into our mid-region, our Midwest and lower Great Lakes, is moving to the east, is because the trajectory of the low has moved. We should start a new program as we enter the heart of severe and hurricane season, the no-hype storm track, following all elements of storms from wind to water. I like that a lot, actually, not going to lie to you, because it's terrible on behalf of all the weather folks out there, both non-official and official sources, to focus on 1 to 2 different pieces of criteria when we have a multitude of different weather phenomena that could really do some damage to your local area, let alone to your own personal property and loved ones. And flash flooding is no joke. Flash flooding is no joke. I remember watching even highlights from the National Hurricane Center conference here in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and the directors from NHC, the directors of emergency management here in the state of Florida in particular, actually did say that the scariest part of hurricane season is not the hurricane itself, not the tornadoes, not the winds, it's the flooding. It's the storm surge and the amount of water that those tropical cyclones bring in. And at the start of the briefing, that's why I immediately highlighted, this really has me concerned. I really wish people would put two and two together, put the puzzle pieces together, because if we got washed out to the extent that we did through Louisiana, Texas, Florida, you guys following the breadcrumbs? Everybody out there, all of our official sources are saying these are also the same aforementioned areas that have the greatest probability of seeing a landfalling tropical cyclone, whether it be a storm, a hurricane, a major hurricane. That's a lot of water being pumped into an area, in at least 3 to 5 times more than what this storm could have produced in a short amount of time. God forbid we have another Ian or a Harvey or a Katrina, for that matter, where they just scrape through and take their time and really dump rain and storm surge all over these areas, especially the coastal regions that have been seeing it pretty badly. But that's for another discussion. Let's move on. So as I'd mentioned at the beginning of the stream as well, for folks who are maybe just still joining us, tornado outbreak, air quotes everywhere. If I could edit the live stream, I'd just put air quotes all over the place, because we really have not seen that unfold. We have 1 tornado report today. We had 8 reports yesterday. And then I believe on the first day we had, okay, so now we're slowly, these reports are going up. We are now into tornado outbreak territory. However, it has been an extended slow duration. So I would consider this a low-end tornado outbreak. And why I say low-end, despite the total numbers, you do the math, you have 19 plus the 1 from today. I'm going to go for 2 today because we had that confirmed water spout in Tampa that transitioned into a full-fledged tornado. We'll say 21 total storms in the span of approximately 48 to 60 hours. Low-end in my opinion, because we didn't see this all unfold. If you guys recall that major setup that we were live here for about 3 to 4 hours, we had, I want to say, upwards of 60, 70, 80 confirmed tornado reports in just that one day. So that is a high-end outbreak. This is more of a low-end outbreak. And it has covered a large area of land at this point. We started in the southern plains and we're exiting in the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. I really am not sure if we're going to get many tornado reports up here. I believe someone had mentioned to me in passing on social media that we had 1 confirmed setup or 1 confirmed touchdown in North Carolina earlier. I could be wrong, so we could see 3 to 4 by the time this chart updates tomorrow morning. We'll have to wait and see. But again, look at the wind reports. The wind reports are just off the chain. Regardless, the hail reports are off the chain, and I wish this also had flood reports, because that would definitely be very, very, very telling. Getting wind here in South Carolina this evening. Big gusts, 40 miles per hour at times entering the state. Windy again tomorrow, but without the scattered cumulus showers. First big cumulus I've seen here in South Carolina today. Very good, very good. And those winds are very blustery, that's for sure. We had about the same going on throughout the day today here in Central Florida, about 30, 35 miles per hour throughout much of the day until that squall line moved through. We got kind of up into that tropical storm threshold, and then it was over before you know it. Beautiful skies, clear skies immediately after that, which is the best part of some of this severe weather. The problem is most people have never been in a real flooding situation. It's an overwhelming experience. Water can do more damage than wind. I absolutely agree with that. 175,000%, and that's why all weather phenomena, all weather warnings, watches, and advisories are created equal. It's just unfortunate that a lot of names out there, whether they're, again, non-official or official, they have a very hard time in communicating that. So some people will scoff in the face of a flash flood and panic in the face of a tornado. I would much rather come face-to-face with a tornado than be caught in a flash flood. That's just me. I don't mess with water. Tornadoes, they can kill you, but at the same time, if you know a thing or two and you maintain your bearings and your situational awareness, you can more or less take shelter, get underground, get in a ditch, and you'll be fine. Flash flooding, you need to get to the highest point, wherever it is you are. God forbid you're caught in a car, or caught out in the open. That could be a very treacherous situation. All right, so this is where we stand currently with Storm Prediction Center. As I'd mentioned, they have, let me move my head over just a little bit so you guys can see. Move it up here for now. There we go. So as you can see, we have discontinued the level 2 risk for the state of Florida. We are now down to a level 1 across the Space Coast down to the Fort Myers, Charlotte Harbor, Punta Gorda area. I think even this is a bit of a stretch. We are done, dead in the water down here. There is no more activity to be concerned about, in my opinion, just having seen everything work its way out over the last couple of hours. And we still have our enhanced area of potential thunderstorms. And like I'd said, move it south. Get that thing south so people are tracking, and get your flood risks going up there in the Midwest, because that's really not going to unfold. It's not going to, and we're missing the mark here for certain, leaving it up there. There's a lot of folks looking at that, and they see tornadoes, and that's the struggle. That's where, as weather folks, meteorologists, trained professionals, we need to communicate the evidence here. We really do, because I see this, and I don't immediately think tornadoes, but that's generally what a lot of people will communicate. Oh, shoot, enhanced twisters, period. And you might not get one tornado. You'll get 4 or 5 inch hail that could crush a skull, destroy a car in seconds, go through the roof of your house. But if there was no tornadoes, bust. I personally do not. I very, very much so dislike that with a passion. And then this is what we're going to be talking about here momentarily towards the back end of the stream once I'm done ranting, raving, and spitting at my camera. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that, but you know what I mean. This is what we have potentially unfolding early next week. We already have a 30%, if not greater than that, risk of severe weather within 25 miles of a point. And see, that's another thing. And I could possibly get some flack for this as well, as we are also very, very quick to misconstrue what this shows. Yes, it shows confidence. 100% yes. It shows that the Storm Prediction Center, the official sources for severe weather prediction, are confident in severe weather occurring. But let's go back to the original chart, and I've actually gotten into a few arguments with a few people. Not bad arguments, but, just debates. This here does not mean the threat of strong severe weather. And let me continue, because I know that probably sounds like a conundrum. Well, what do you mean that doesn't? That's enhanced. Obviously, you're going to have strong severe weather. Hear me out, though. You got to remember that this is a point-based product. What that tells me instead, like the iteration we used yesterday with the one pimple versus the multiple breakout, that shows me that that's where you're more than likely going to have a breakout of severe weather than just isolated instances of severe weather. And that's why I would argue tooth and nail that we should have had an orange region here in the state of Florida. And again, people will say, oh, but we had 2 or 3 tornadoes. That's nothing. It's like, that's enough. Look at the size of the Florida Peninsula in comparison to the Midwest. Look at the size of the state of Florida compared to Texas. It doesn't take much to be within a 25 nautical mile radius of a point in the Florida Peninsula, excluding the Panhandle. And earlier this morning, as I was working my way through the first half of my workday, there was a point in time where I pulled up my radar Omega, and there were literally severe, tornado, severe, special weather statement, all over the place. As Reed Timmer would say, I looked at the charts, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, come on, like, get on the ball, guys. What is happening? You're missing out on this. But I digress. I gotta message some point Reed Timmer and do like a Reed Timmer challenge and see how fast people can say, gotta be kidding me. So for next week, anyways, this is what we have going on. So first and foremost, this is our 0Z SPC, not SPC, I'm so used to saying that, WPC analysis. And very interesting setup here. They have an unstable wave pushing through the Great Lakes, and then we have a mature wave that's butting right up against that. And it's that triple point in the warm sector of the easternmost system there we want to pay attention to for our severe weather. The problem is, since we have 2 cyclones in such close proximity to one another, that it's going to cause a lot of heavy rainfall. There's not going to be any snow, and I'm so thankful that snow has finally trended off of social media. I'm so happy to finally be like, it's done. Now we got to watch for flash flooding, because all that stuff that was producing snow when it was cold enough is still going to be around, only in the form of rain and flooding. So this is what's going to continue to unfold over the next 12 to 24 hours. As you can see, the rainfall doesn't quite go away. And again, just like I said a second ago, all that, quote, wraparound moisture on the backside of the system is no longer going to freeze or glaciate. It's going to remain as liquid rain, liquid precip. So this is going to continue to accumulate very, very heavy rainfall. And because we are getting fully into, or fully immersed, I should say, in the springtime, we are starting to see more severe weather extend up the eastern seaboard. The frequency with which we're going to start seeing severe weather in the northern plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes is only going to go up and up and up as it gets hotter out there. So for everybody out there hyping up the storms, eventually, at least I hope, that hype is going to go away because it's going to be such a regular thing. People are going to be like, yep, here we go again next week. Yep, here we go again. It's going to happen. We're already prepared. We've been prepared for the last 17 storms, and now we're going to be ready for the next 20. There's a reason that April and May are considered the severe weather season. There's a reason, and there is a method to the madness. It's not like everything is, freaking out. This is irregular. No, it's completely regular, ordinary. And then finally, as we go into the weekend, things are going to clear out. Phenomenal weekend. I'm honestly stoked about this. I'm very upset that I missed the tornadic activity today. I was I was simmering at my work desk. I'm like, why am I sitting here doing this when I could be out there facing these things head on? But I digress. I'm not going to get into that. That's a wound that I'm just going to let fester until it finally scabs over. Wonderful weekend in store for a lot of us here through the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast for the most part, Great Lakes region, Midwest. The Great Plains are also going to be under the gun for some pretty solid weather, actually. We do have our dry line already establishing itself, and that's going to be one of the primary catalysts we want to watch for early next week as we prepare for this next potential severe weather event that, how close are we? You can quote me on this. Supposedly is going to impact the entire country. Those are the type of titles we have going around out there. This storm system to impact the entire United States. We're talking like day after tomorrow sized hurricane like they showed on the satellite in that movie, if you guys have seen it. Which, random side note for the folks in here who may be a little up there in age. I remember seeing that movie in the theaters. And that movie was made back in the early 2000s. Sheesh. Still holds up really well to this day, but anyways, as we get into next week, we have this system transitioning out of the Rocky Mountains and into the plains, and so as I'd mentioned, there's our dry line setup getting reinforced by this stable/unstable wave and occluded parent low moving through the northern plains coming out of Montana and Wyoming. So this is going to be your area of most likely activity. We'll have to watch this very closely. As we discussed yesterday, it does not seem like we have the most adequate warm sector moist conveyor coming up out of the south and east. It looks like a lot of this stuff is going to come off of the terrain in Mexico, southern Texas. So we'll have to see precisely what shakes out, and I, for one... And again, I feel so sad saying this because they are the subject matter experts. I only have my so long of experience, but I'm starting to not immediately buy into what I see on SPC's charts. And I feel icky even saying that because they're the end-all, be-all. They're the official source. It's in the name. But at the same time, click back over here and nothing's happening. It's all down here in the Carolinas. So... we're missing the mark. So that's why I'm a little up in the air about it. And even WPC has a whole different area indicated on their charts. They have some thunderstorm activity through Oklahoma and Texas, and then that very rapidly transitions up, not even into the Midwest, but actually into the northern plains, the lower Great Lakes, where Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota could potentially tap in to some significant thunderstorm activity. So... we're in a wait and see game. We're not going to blow the whistle or sound the alarm just yet. It's these, honestly, I feel like these baroclinic systems are much more difficult to forecast the phenomena with than anything I've ever seen. I'm used to forecasting out west and forecasting for point-based locations, but sheesh, to accurately forecast the extent and the phenomena of the severe weather characteristics with these things is very difficult, and I'll openly admit it. It stresses me out sometimes trying to adequately put something together. And I'll be honest with you, and One Nation Weather can testify to this because I know he does the same thing. I watch his videos on a routine basis. It's very difficult to provide you guys with forecasts, genuine forecasts. And I'm even contemplating doing a live stream with you guys one of these days that doesn't involve talking, doesn't involve really chatting. I want to just sit down with you guys one night and just take you through the forecast process. No one has really done that before, and I think it would be very interactive for you guys to be in the chat and ask questions, make comments, and commentate amongst yourselves while I actually take you through the process of what I do off the camera before getting on here to brief you guys what it is that I'm thinking and what I'm seeing. Because I can tell you right now, if you're new to this channel or if you just recently started watching, I don't just go off the models. I don't just go off of what's on the charts. I am not afraid to hypothetically lay it out on the table and say, this is what I'm seeing and what I'm sticking with. And it has made me humbly, modestly excited to see that I want to say at least 75-80% of the time we've come very close to hitting the nail on the head. What's his name? Devil Charger. Love reading his comments. Haven't seen him in the chats in a little bit, but he even mentioned with the previous significant weather event that occurred in the Midwest, he went on to mention that we hit it 110% on the money, the timing, the locations. We cut the states in half. That's exactly where everything unfolded, whereas everybody else was talking huge this and blah, and it's like, let's not panic. But this is not a let's sit down and gloat all evening. Let's dig into a little bit of this material now, shall we? Let's get on over to our lovely European model, the European model that busted us on our heavy rain forecast. And let's start digging into a couple things. So first and foremost, this is another reason why I think we have kind of busted on this severe weather setup for today. Let's go back to 9th at 12 Zulu, and let's take a look at the evolution of this low. So right out of the gate, this is exactly why Storm Prediction Center has dorked up. I'll leave it at the 60-hour mark. No, we'll go to the 54, 48-hour mark. If I were to do a very, very broad analysis here, there's your low. Here's what looks like your triple point, your warm front, and then your cold front is plain as day out there. And as this system, I'll use a different color so I can demonstrate, as this system transitions up like this, that makes sense. Right here, this would be where your severe weather sector tracks up and through. There's your enhanced risk. Now, the problem is the models more or less didn't quite hit it on the money in terms of where this system went. And even here, this is our latest European model. It still looks like we have a parent low up through Illinois and Ohio, which would typically indicate severe weather. And without looking at any of our thickness lines or anything like that, it looks like our triple point is still somewhere up and through here, with our cold frontal appendage, maybe a weak stable wave or a low trying to form down here over the South Carolina-Georgia border, and one warm front up and through here, maybe a secondary warm push down here. So it still looks like we could have an enhanced risk of severe weather up there for the Midwest. But if you come back over to the actual analysis, and we'll look at the current surface analysis, notice that that is way off. We have our triple point and our mature wave way down here, pushing now into regular Virginia, not West Virginia, and North Carolina, right about where we have that severe weather still in effect. There you go. Let's see if the radar updates. Is it going to update and we're going to get new information? I think it already is updated. There we go. So all this is more or less your... Actually, we'll go ahead and classify it 3 different ways. So this here is your bona fide stable area. There's nothing happening over Indiana, Illinois, etc. This is your conditionally stable, and this is your conditionally unstable, because we are still within a modified warm sector, but it is very, very conditionally stable. And I will technically use that terminology quite a bit. You'll hear me go back and forth. There's conditionally stable, there's conditionally unstable. And the reason I go back and forth between that fine line, that teeter-totter, is because if you're in a more conditionally unstable environment, you're more likely going to see those thunderstorms unleashed, and you're going to break your cap, and everything's going to mix through the atmosphere up to the top layer, the tropopause. If I start to say things like conditionally stable, it's because, you know, there's a little bit of stuff coming together. Do I think we're going to break the cap? Do I think we're going to see that scattered coverage? Probably not. So I'm leaning more towards this ain't happening to this is probably happening. If we're ever in an absolutely unstable setup, you best believe you might as well grab your ankles and stick your rear end in the air for my Twister fans out there and get ready. And in this case, this is more of your CS layer, this is more of your CU layer, and that's why we have our severe thunderstorm activity, because this is your bona fide warm sector. And if you think about it in terms of water, This is going to be your denser area of warm air. This is where you have like a bottleneck of a river. Sorry, I jumbled my words there. This would be your warm conveyor. I know. Let me clear the ink. Let me turn the radar off so I can draw for a little bit and show you guys. Let's see. How do I toggle? Can I turn the data off on here? Is there a way to just black it out? There we go. That works. I'm not looking for hail, but anyways, let's do a little bit more of drawing. So if you guys think about it in terms of a liquid, a really great instructor of mine back in weather tech school many, many years ago told me dynamic fluid continuum. If you understand that the atmosphere is a dynamic beast and it is constantly in change in a state of flux, that's one piece of the puzzle. If you can finally look at the entire globe and imagine the atmosphere or the globe as just a lava lamp or a bowl of fluid. That's the second piece of the puzzle. And continuum, once you realize that it is constantly in motion, it is constantly on the move. It goes back to the law, one of the laws of physics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is constantly out there somewhere. That's why there's a lot of other big name Mets who will say that weather across the planet is interjoined, interconnected. Same principle here. So if you look at our synoptic setup, we have an unstable wave moving through Toledo, Lima, Ohio, getting into the Great Lakes, parts of Michigan, and into Canada. And then we have our more bona fide mature system here. Then here is our robust warm sector. I'll draw it with a big arrow because this is your main severe sector. And then if you think about it, we have a little, we'll call this a little stream system working its way right up through here, up to that next warm front. So this is where you're trying to gather enough energy, enough juice in the atmosphere to get your severe weather going in Ohio. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because you're going to have this system mixing it. You're going to have this on this little stable wave here over Tennessee mixing it. You're going to have your cold and dry intrusion on the backside of it mixing it. So this is like a dam. Oh, wow. Sorry about that. This is like a dam. There's nothing going to get through this because if you think about it as well, we have our cyclonic rotation around this mature wave, so it's almost like it's fighting a losing battle. It's trying to draw in energy from the south, and this is not going to let it do anything, so it has nothing else better to do but kick off your severe weather and keep it confined to the mid-Atlantic. And again, in my opinion, that's a big old bust. Look at all these severe thunderstorm warnings down here, and there is nothing happening in Ohio. I don't know why they have not changed their charts. I don't really know why. But that's neither here nor there. It's happening. We can't really do much about it right now. So all our models have kind of more or less missed the mark in terms of our low track. And then here comes the next one right there. This is valid for Tuesday at 6 Zulu. So I'm still leery that we're going to get a whole lot of coverage on Monday. We can, but this is already 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CST. So it looks like, again, a nocturnal threat for much of the plains. And the European model has slowly but surely been getting a little bit more intensive and more expansive with its coverage of our thunderstorm activity for that day. If you go back to the 10th at 0Z, we'll go back a little over 24 hours, you can notice that that system doesn't look very, very impressive at all. We get a nice little sector that forms even further to the east than what's designated now, and it disappears as fast as it came in. Rapidly shoots off towards the east-northeast. If you go back to the 9th at 0Z, again, totally different picture. It's like a night and day difference. If this would load for me any moment now. Okay, the stream's still good. I got nervous for a second. Notice here, now we're back into the western central southern plains, almost right along the front range of the Rockies. This could possibly be a severe weather event for Colorado and the Wyoming missile complexes out there. And then it kind of stays much longer. This actually goes all the way through to Wednesday. If you guys look at the timestamps, this is getting into early Wednesday morning. We still have potential severe weather occurring in the central southern plains, getting into the Ohio, Mississippi valleys, and then eventually the lower Great Lakes in the Midwest. So, yeah. This is definitely going to be a very, very interesting setup to see, and wow, look at that. I mean, I know this is older model data, but look at that area of contention for that following Friday. But let's get further into the weeds just a little bit. This is what we're seeing on our Euro, and it doesn't look nearly as impressive as those last few iterations, and it wants to rocket it out of that AOR fairly quickly, and then we're left with this possible scenario that could bring us some very good severe weather. Scattered severe weather. This is not a very, very elevated risk, at least looking at this depiction, but we'll have to kind of watch as we move into Friday, Saturday of next weekend whether or not we see a resurgence of stuff occurring over the Southern Plains, Dixie Alley, and getting into the Mid-Atlantic, the Appalachians. And that's as far as we can go. If we switch on over to our good old handy GFS on Tropical Tidbits, still keeping that next system looking fairly aggressive out there. There you have it. There's your ignition right about at max heating, or I should say the end of max heating of the day, because this is 18Z 2 p.m. This is after the conclusion of the hottest part of the day, or the most substantial warming. And by the way, again, fun fact, if you hear me say max heating of the day, the end of max heating, what I'm saying is, and it's a bit of a differential time depending on where you are in the United States or even in the world, because obviously the time zones are going to vary. When I say max heating of the day, that is as you are warming, not the hottest part of the day. A lot of folks will get that misconstrued. They'll look at the hottest part of the day. That's not really going to do it. You want to look at when you're getting the most substantial surface heating, because that's when those SKU-T indices, that's when the basic water cycle begins to kick in. You start seeing that convective lift. Things start to elevate, things will start to condense, and that's what brings your updrafts. If you're already hot out there and still waiting for stuff to happen, it's probably not going to happen unless you have something else in the mid to upper levels as a mechanism to help trigger it, in which case you might see some elevated or high-based thunderstorms, as they like to say. And in this case, max heating of the day, this is 2 p.m. We are getting to the end of maximum heating of the day, almost to the hottest point of the day, if not just crossing that threshold. And that's why in the next chart here at 0Z 8 p.m., you now have that ignition. And you finally have that stuff firing along the dry line as that low-pressure system forms up and really rapidly bombs out possibly over Nebraska in the front. Yeah, this is going to be a very, very rough setup. I would not be surprised if we had severe weather in the eastern sides of Wyoming, Colorado, the Front Range out there, maybe even trying to get into New Mexico. I've seen that plenty of times. They get some wicked supercells out there, especially out near Denver, Boulder, Colorado, near Colorado Springs, where the United States Air Force Academy is. All those areas. Fort Carson, Buckley Air Force Base, did a lot of forecasting for them in the years, and sheesh, they get some ridiculous thunderstorms out there. And you wouldn't even think about it because a lot of folks on the civilian side, they just mention the snow. They don't mention anything else. They don't mention the downsloping, the freezing rain, the 3-4 inch hail that we've seen out there, the massive supercells out there. Like, it gets pretty crazy further west you go. We have a couple of occasional serious situations in the Pac Northwest in Montana, the Snake River Valley near to Boise and Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. I've seen some really nasty stuff near the Las Vegas Creech Nellis Air Force Base area. So, you know, it's not just out here. It depends on the time of year. Once the monsoon really gets going in the Southwest, that's when their severe weather and their haboob season will really begin in the Four Corners. So GFS does not look overly impressive, at least based on what I'm seeing here. That 570 line is not really lifting too far to the north. I thought it'd be much further to the north than this. Some can make a case that you have your 564 line up there, which is your rough indication of where your subtropical meets the not-so-subtropical air in between. So we could still see some pretty expansive coverage. This tells me, as this system occludes, that our greatest chance of severe weather, if you look at the thickness lines right in through here, there's your occluded boundary, and your cold front somewhere right through there with a warm frontal appendage extending through the Midwest and into the Great Lakes. You could definitely see some. I'll go ahead and shift the color. Right in through here is where you could likely see your strongest severe weather event take place. Maybe a bit of a recovery trying to take place on the back side of it. It looks like there's an embedded trough on the south side of the system that could possibly invigorate some of the situation out there. And it looks like the model tries to pick up on that as well. You can see a bit of those precip fields beginning to form up again over Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. So we'll have to wait and see. And then there's a pretty good punch of cold air right here. Very weak, unstable wave right there. That's really not picking up a whole lot, but I think that's a little stronger than the previous system that moved through. Very, very good temperature discontinuity right there, and that looks to set us up for Friday. I think if we go a little further in time, we'll see as this area begins to modify and we get that warm advection coming up out of the south, you're going to see where I have my little pink line light up with stuff. And there it goes. So, yeah. Pretty decent polar plunge right there, as a matter of fact. We might just get another round of snow out there for the higher terrain features in the Four Corners, the Intermountain West. Great Basin, even up towards where I just mentioned, the Snake River Valley in southern Idaho. We might get a return of some polar activity. looking at this. And we're only 192 hours out, so it's not like it's a outlandish part of the GFS. I've been neglecting it. Let's see what the AI European model thinks. I almost completely forgot about this thing, to tell you the truth. So the AI Euro is definitely seeing that same system picking up steam and moving up to the north. However, it looks like we have a different depiction of where our triple point could possibly be. It looks like we have a very ragged out, occluded front, looking at the pressure troughing right through here and looking at the thickness ridge there with our cold front extending back down to the south, warm front here. This could change where we see our severe weather depending on how this shakes out. Severe weather could be a little confined further to the west. We could see it ignite down in through here and follow a path more like this if it stays together and it doesn't wiggle wobble like our current system is doing. Because, yeah, this sees it take a track through Wisconsin, up into the Great Lakes, through the peninsula of Michigan. Could get some residual stuff depending on how... And see, this isn't... this really isn't all that impressive to me. The AI Euro doesn't really give this a big vote of confidence in terms of our synoptic drivers, because look at the discontinuity here. Remember that terminology I used for you guys, the boxology, when you see your thickness lines perpendicular to your pressure gradient, that shows the movement of cold or warm air. In this case, if you look, we have one thickness line, the 560 line. I think that's the 560 line. Yes, the 560 line or the 558 line right here. And it runs almost parallel to our isobars. So we're not getting a lot of mixing. We're not really getting a lot of mixing. And if you go even further down towards the south and you look at the tail end of the front, we're also almost parallel to our isobars in terms of where that front is moving. So that front's not going to have a lot of steam. It's going to be a very minuscule cold boundary that could really kick things off. So this could be more of a dry line event. We might not see it expand further into like the day 6 depiction sees. If we go back and we go to that chart, we could see a little more of this. It could be a more bona fide dry line setup. So this looks promising based on, just first glance at the GFS and the European model. That day 6, though, this could be a stretch. And I'm not, based off what I've seen just now, looking at the textbook or the physics Euro, the AI Euro, the GFS, there in south, I'm not on board with. I don't think that would happen. Really don't think that would happen. I could see the northern half of Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, maybe trying to breach the border of southern Minnesota. This area possibly going down. Again, depending on how much happens with our low pressure and the triple point and where the jet is aloft. But southern half down into the Gulf Coast states and Dixie Alley, I don't know about that one. That could be a bit of a stretch. Day 5, I agree with. Day 6, I would probably modify it if I were the one drawing the charts. But I'm not. I'm here with you guys. Let's see. Let's look at the Canadian model really fast and see what that model is thinking. Yeah, see, so the Canadian model doesn't give it all that much of a vote of confidence either. It wants to keep all that severe weather possibly up there into Minnesota, Iowa, and I'm using a highlighter, so you're not going to be able to see it. I'll use black. Wants to keep most of your severe weather up and through there, which is definitely much further to the north like we would just see on the SPC charts, the day 6 outlook. And I bet you 10-1 the Canadian model still thinks that we're going to get that dry line activation. Actually, look at that. The Canadian model doesn't think anything's going to happen on that dry line until the following day. Maybe we get a little bit of latency in that system, and then we see it activate and kick off towards the east-northeast with our system taking its time to occlude. This isn't a really hefty occluded front here, and it's a much weaker system, so we'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see. All of our models do look in agreement, though, that we are poised to see that pretty good polar punch. There it is right there. Boom. Nice 1031 high entrenching itself over the northern plains and the upper Midwest. 540 line comes well within the Canadian-U.S. border, and then there's your frontal boundary, plain as day right there. And then as this high pressure down here sets everything up and begins to pull stuff south, pull stuff out of the south with this button right up against it, there's your point of contention right there. You have all that stuff being funneled out of the north. You got your forces setting up against the battleground, if you will, out of the south. And then there's your area where we could see good thunderstorm ignition. I know I'm drawing what looks to be like a kindergarten diagram here, but I'm trying to give it to you guys in the easiest perspective to understand. You have your forces stacked to the north, plowing south. You have your opposing forces coming in out of the south, headed north, and that's where they're going to clash. There's your severe weather. Well, maybe. Obviously maybe. We'd have to see exactly what our severe weather parameters look like. We'll just take a quick glance at our surface cape for the time being and see if it actually lines up. Yeah, so there you go. There is some instability down there, just not a lot. Really not a lot. So that could more so just be a lot of rainfall. It does look like there on Friday we get some pretty good cape brought in by that low as it pulls that cold air back down to the south, and then it very rapidly tapers off. So we'll see. I mean, that's a pretty sporty amount of cape right there, too. Look at that. That's easily up into the 2,000 plus joules per kilogram. So if anything, if there was a thing to hype, it would be almost this as opposed to the next system. What does the next system look like? There's a pretty good cape there, but we'll have to see if it can actually come uncapped. That's the thing. And just like we had mentioned looking at SPC's charts, it looks like a large majority of our cape stays up to the north before washing out almost completely. There's possibly the reason why... No, actually, this is too late in time. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let's see what the European model thinks in terms of just our surface instability. See if it's thinking the same thing, more or less. So, yeah. Kind of, sort of. We get that kind of whiplash effect of our cape before it really builds in out of the south for that next system. Yeah, look at that. Wow. Good Lord. I want to look at a skew T for west central Texas because that's pushing the 4,000 joules per kilogram mark right there. And this is for next Friday. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting. And this is only going to keep going up. We're only into the middle parts of April. I can't believe I'm saying that. Time is just ticking along. But we're getting into the middle parts of April by the time all that sets up. And look at how the Gulf of Mexico just becomes a whole bubbling area of nastiness. And that's going to also remain the case. I know a lot of people are predicting that once El Nino dies, which it is on its way out. We'll talk about that briefly before we end the stream here. But a lot of folks are neglecting to acknowledge that the waters are indeed hot, not only for hurricane season, but for severe weather season as well. I don't think we're going to see Dixie Alley, the Southern Plains, the Southeast, like Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, suddenly stop seeing severe weather because El Nino is going to go away. I think there's still going to be a really good shot. And this single chart, I know this is 240 hours out. I'm not forecasting it. I'm using it as a representation of what I'm trying to communicate. That's where your buoyancy is going to come from. The Gulf of Mexico is going to help create that moisture source for Tornado Alley, for Dixie Alley, for the Midwest. So if you think that we're going to consistently see stuff up here only, you got another thing coming because you're going to have all this energy just simmering and boiling. If you go back to the day yesterday, yeah. Excellent example right here in our chart. Let me go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see. That's all your enhancement right there brought on by the Gulf of Mexico. Notice how nothing happened farther to the north. We had a little bit of interior breach in Mississippi, but everything was confined to the Gulf coastline. And that is your hot Gulf of Mexico waters that are really helping to ramp up that stuff. So, I've been seeing some channels say that eventually this area is going to turn off and it's just going to be up here. I don't think so. I think we're going to see things brewing up in the south, in Dixie Alley, and then they'll extend to the east and the northeast, not just to the east, but you know what I meant. All right, so there is our prognosis for the next, we'll say 14 days, since we went all the way to next weekend, and we're not even into this weekend just yet. Let's go ahead and talk the Nino. Let me go ahead and close this up a little bit so you guys can see. There we go. Because this has been, El Nino is just dropping. El Nino was like double tapped, and it is collapsing big time. If this doesn't tell you that story, we are now into a weak El Nino. We are officially in a weak Nino, guys. It's been a strong El Nino for several months. It's been El Nino for what feels like forever at this point. But this is our 3-4 index, and I've been watching this every day when I wake up and when I go to bed. I look at this bad boy, and we are just on the downward descent. For my Floridians out there, or anybody near a Busch Gardens, a SeaWorld, what is the other one? A Six Flags. We are now officially, we went up, 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 and now we're woo, and it's just going straight down. Straight down, and I'll show you exactly why. You come over to our SST 7-day change and look at that. La Nina is in full effect. We are cooling off across the equatorial Pacific, the entirety of the equatorial Pacific. Look at that, all the way through into the maritime continents out there, getting into Thailand, Australia, well past the central Pacific where Hawaii is set. And we still have our negative PDO out there, still very warm in the northwest Pacific, and the northeast is very cool. So look at that. And the Atlantic is still slowly warming. We have some cold anomalies in the Gulf and in the Caribbean, which is good. It's likely that easterly flow coming in like so to help upwell our waters for El Nino. But notice that our greater tropical Atlantic it's still warming. It's still getting warmer. And it's just going to keep doing that as we go over the next several months. So El Nino is officially at the point to where it is crashing and burning, and it gives me chills to say this, but for my viewers out there, Scrooge, PM, How Close Are We, Twilight Firefly, Zenful, everybody, Mick and Marley, Kevin, everybody out there, if you guys remember, even ONW has been tuning in for a little while now. If you guys recall, go back to November, December. Haven't we all come to agreement as a community that we agreed April is going to be the telling month? I'm literally getting chills right now because we can go back to the holidays last year, and we sat here. I looked you guys straight in the eyes figuratively and said, April is going to be the telling point. If in April things really come to a screeching halt, we will know what's going to happen in the hurricane season. There it is. There it is. That's all I have to say about that. There it is. It's officially happening, and we hit it right on the mark. Obviously, CPC and everybody has been predicting this, but obviously there were also some folks out there who were like, it might not happen. It's happening. It is officially happening. That is a big decline. We're not out of El Nino, but we are on our way out, and very fast for that matter as well. If you guys look, that's the entire equatorial Pacific that's just going under. Very impressive. Very impressive. For a while there during February and March, we saw some cool anomalies here, but notice how the entire thing is just going under. Everything is going under. So now the question is, how much is this going to cool? Is it going to be a cool neutral? Is it going to be a weak trying to get into moderate La Nina? Or is the CFS on the ball here with that extreme La Nina that it is suddenly predicting? Because that's another trend, too, that's been occurring month to month. The CFS is just going from this to this to this to almost into a negative 2.7 to negative 3 cool anomaly out there, which would be a very strong La Nina. So we shall see. And the Atlantic waters are still warming. We'll go over and look at just the traditional SSTs out here. And if you look, big noticeable difference. You're seeing La Nina cut right through the heart of El Nino. In fact, it looks like we're finally starting to see a surface reflection right there. I'll get the pen ink out of the way, and I'll zoom in for you guys to see. I'll just zoom in with my page here so you guys can see. Look at that. You can see it right there. Well, actually, let me get my mouse right there. See that? It's going to fully erode it. That's your 3-4 region right here, too. So as that upwelling continues, this is your 3-4 El Nino region. That's the big influencer. This is 1 and 2. I believe this is either 4 or 3. I'm not too sure. I think this is 3. Then we get 3, 4, and 4. And this is your 3-4, which is the usual big determinant of what your El Nino conditions or your La Nina conditions are like. If you still have time here at the end of the stream, check out the star.nesdiz NOAA must be 60 frame satellite from this evening to see the eastern storms if you're interested. Sorry, I'm just reading your comment right now. I will definitely go and check that out before we close out. We'll use it as our concluding slide. And I agree, how close are we? My gut tells me we will see tropical development in May. I really do think so. We saw it last year. It just didn't come to fruition until literally June 1st. Arlene, and then she got wiped off the map by El Nino. So if it happened last year with El Nino wearing that system down, what's going to stop something from, popping in? So, and yes, Silver Steel, that subtropical Atlantic is very, very cool. And look at that, the Gulf Stream is trying to penetrate, but we still have very, very cool waters off the mid-Atlantic and the northeast coastline. And right about whereabouts our subtropical Azores High would form, we got very cool waters. Very cool waters. And it looks like the tropical Atlantic has started to heat back up again off the coast of Africa, because for a little while there, those blue anomalies were really taking hold. Oh, you guys can't see. I'm sorry. There we go. Now you can see. So yeah, El Nino is going to be no more. We're going to finally be able to stop advertising it in literally every video that we do, because I'm definitely tired of bringing it up. I really am. The 1 and 2 is surprisingly warming, though. Look at that. The 1 and 2 is getting a little warm out there, and I think we're having bleed over from the Caribbean. That's what's happening. If you look at the 7-day change and we zoom in, we actually have warm waters almost like interjecting from the Caribbean and spewing through the Panama Canal. I think that's the Panama Canal right there. You can see it kind of getting into the Eastern Pacific through Panama, which is very cool. You can see it just bleeding over. I hear Willow crying. That's like my signal to get ready to end the stream. She always does that whenever it's around 9 o'clock. It's so crazy. I love how intelligent animals can be. I really do. It brings my heart such joy and such just wholesome emotion, how in tune your animals get with you. It's wild. I love it. Yes, I know. All right, let me star Nesda's Noah. I'm going to do a quick Google search so we can end the stream there. Star.nesda. There it is. Goes imagery viewer. All right. And which one do I click on? ONW? Jacqueline, hello there. Thank you very much for subscribing. I love it. Love to hear it. Welcome to the Weather Center community. It is an absolute pleasure to have you joining us this evening. ONW, which one to... Oh, can I just click right here and see it? Let's see. This... I can have some fun with this name. The Sandwich RGB. That's funny. The Sandwich Satellite. I'm going to use that during hurricane season. The Sandwich Satellite shows us where our tropical burger is forming right now. I love that. Geocolor. I like this, though. Whoa, okay. You can definitely tell I have not messed around with this website. Look at all the... That's weird. I feel like I'm playing a video game. Which one would you want me to use? Is it the Geocolor, the other bands here? Wow, we actually have a lot of enhancements on here. I like this website. I don't know how I did not know this before. This reminds me of my Mark 4B I used to use in Air Force weather. Silver Steel, thank you very, very much for the $10 donation. A beautiful, beautiful time here and a wonderful way to end the live stream. Thank you very much for that. Truly means a lot. I genuinely appreciate it. You want to click the loop option below what you clicked on? Let's see. So Geocolor, let's go to animation loops. There we go. Well, yeah, you can see them working their way through. You can track that area all the way through. I really like this website. Really do. I got to favorite this right now. Put it into weather favorites. There we go. And there goes our area of thunderstorms that just recently moved off the coastline. Right there. But alrighty, folks. That is all she wrote. We will be back for another episode of Weather Center Nazario here very soon. I'm not too sure if we're going to do a live stream tomorrow. Probably not. Oh, look at that. And we get some wonderful visible satellite of during the day. Excellent, excellent, excellent tool. This is going to be great for briefing. Look at the cloud streets occurring down here. We definitely had frontal passage down here. That's why we have such clear skies here in Florida now. Gorgeous satellite shot. I can look at this for hours. I can fall asleep to this. This is like white noise to a meteorologist. But alrighty, guys. ONW, thanks for the solid plug in a new satellite overlay that is probably going to come extremely handy when we do wander our way into a very ambiguous tropical season ahead of us, which is now approximately, we'll say, a month and a half away from this point. Silver Steel S, Once again, I echo the same sentiments. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for the $10 donation. Genuinely means a lot, and it goes right back into this channel. Every single thing that I earn from the revenue on YouTube goes right back into this channel. And guys, I'm going to sincerely do something I've never done on this channel before, but this comes from a very, very emotional and sincere part of me. Please share this content. Please share this content. Network. For the love of God, please, to get this channel out there, we have to boost the views on this channel. And the main reason I say that is because I do not want to sit through many, many more days like today, where instead of being here on the camera or outside on the front lines giving you guys the weather content and the information you deserve, but rather I'm sucked in to just my job, work. I want to do all things weather full time, and I cannot do it. I really can't do it without you guys. So I genuinely, as a person, not as a YouTuber or anything, as David, ask you guys, please. I know it sounds, easy for everybody to say, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and consider turning on the notifications bell so you don't miss a future update. It's very easy to say that, but today was very emotionally painful. We had that wedge tornado move through St. Augustine. We had that tornadic activity in Tampa Bay. I had a lot of you guys reaching out to me about going live, getting in the chase mode, and I couldn't do it because I have other obligations, and I don't want to sit through that. I don't want to be here during another tornado, another severe weather event, a hurricane, God forbid, and I'm stuck twiddling my thumbs, and I can't get you guys the weather warnings, watches, and information that you need in a timely manner. That really pains me. It does. It really hurts. I was livid sitting there doing... It felt like random things because my heart is invested in weather, and it genuinely was so emotionally defeating that I'm watching this stuff kick off and I'm completely handcuffed. So I urge you, if you are a genuine supporter of this channel and the information that I work hard to put out for you guys, please share this information with your friends, your family. Let's get some more subscribers going. Let's get the algorithm back on our side, and let's continue to grow this community so I can truly dedicate everything I have to getting you guys the information that you deserve, to weed out the BS, and to get even better at what I do so I can dedicate more time to training myself up to present this information to you guys so we never miss the mark in the future, especially when it matters most. And today it really mattered, and it hurt that with everything that was happening, I could do nothing besides share story posts that get like 5 views. It really does bother me. It does. So that's why I lean on you guys in our community to help get this information out there. So if there's anything you take away from this live stream, please, when I do say subscribe, when I do say hit that like button, if you can share this information, share the channel, encourage others to hit that subscribe button, join the road ahead with us so we can all ride it out together, it would sincerely mean the world to me, not as a YouTuber, not as a meteorologist, but as a person who loves what he does. I'm so exhausted at the end of the day trying to cram in as much weather as I can around other responsibilities when I could focus and you guys be my primary responsibility. I'd want nothing more in the world. Would want nothing more in the world, and I would eat up every second of it. So definitely. It was a painful day. It really was. We missed a lot. And I don't want that to be a recurring thing. I don't want you guys coming to me saying, we got to do this, what's happening? And I can't do anything. That sucks. It's like in our old sexual assault briefings or our old suicide prevention briefings back in the middle. Well, I shouldn't say old. I just went through one about 2 weeks ago. It's like when they say, being a bystander and not speaking up is just as bad as being the offender. And that's exactly how I felt today. We had all this stuff going down. I could have been out there reporting it for you guys, capturing this data, capturing the observations, providing that live coverage, and I was... Sorry, guys. I gotta sit on the phone. But anyways, I'm done with my tirade. Thank you all. One Nation, Mick and Marley, how close are we? Superchars, Hannah Dale, Jacqueline, a wonderful welcome wagon to you as well for hitting that subscribe button. Same thing with True Justice. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. And that's all she wrote. We will ride out the rest of this severe weather event for the rest of tonight. We have a good couple days ahead of us, and then we got to buckle back down and get ready for the next one here in the beginning of next week and see exactly what happens. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop a comment in the comment section below or drop me a line on my Instagram, my TikTok, or my X. I will definitely get back to you guys. No matter how mentally and physically drained I am, I will do whatever it takes to get accurate and timely weather information to you guys, and relevant information for that matter, not just the exciting stuff, to the best and the physical means of my capabilities, if that even is a sentence. I'm definitely getting tired now. You guys have been an amazing audience as well. About to share your channel of mine. Hopefully it gives you a few. Want me to refer to you as a partner or collaborator, subscribe to the post. Actually, that is an excellent suggestion. I am more than happy to jump on board that train, and we can talk a little bit more about that offline, as a matter of fact, if you don't mind. I think that's a wonderful opportunity for the both of us to continue to try to grow and get a collaborative effort out there, and hopefully enthuse, or I guess I should say instigate, more collaboration amongst other channels. That's something I've never seen before. No one has really done collaborations, but I'm ranting and I'm talking too much, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Happy Friday Eve, and I hope that you have a great rest of your Thursday night. And until next time, you know the phrase, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.